Hey, greetings everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Fall McKnight Artist Lecture. For those of you I haven't gotten a chance to meet, my name is Sean. I am the, sorry, my title just changed, Education and Artist Services Manager here at Northern Play Center. And I'm pleased to introduce our speaker for the night, Karima Duchamp. Karima is a French ceramic artist and painter who lives and works in Mulhouse or Mulhouse, France. Mulhouse, close?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Almost.
Duchamp's work is inspired by Berber objects and traditions that surrounded her from childhood, drawing on the links between herself and her grandmother and mother, who were a potter and weaver respectively. Karima is interested in reclaiming traditional influences and seeing how they adapt to contemporary craft without bending to Western influences. The work is focused on taking time to experience communities and the specificities and richness of those traditions. The work develops from the surface, which is made from superimposed layers of clay. Formal inspiration for the work is drawn from frescoes, ornamentation, and architecture. Karima graduated with an MFA with honors from l'École des Beaux-Arts and Besançon. Okay, no, I promise I actually listened and tried to get these before we started. Since graduating, she has followed her artistic explorations through residencies, which have taken Duchamp to the United States, Japan, and Germany. In addition to the residencies, Karima has shown extensively throughout Europe and parts of Asia, and her work has been acquired by several prestigious collections as well. Before going any further, I would like to take a moment to thank the McKnight Foundation, without whose generous support this residency would not be possible. The McKnight Foundation is a Minnesota-based family foundation that advances a more just, creative, and abundant future where people and planet thrive. For the folks that are joining us on Zoom tonight, thank you. This lecture is being recorded, so I would ask that you please mute your microphones and cameras. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to enter those into the chat, and a staff member will ask those on your behalf, i.e. I would be happy to ask those on your behalf. And now, without any further ado or mispronunciations, I would like to turn the floor over to Karima.
So thanks a lot for attending my talk. First, I would like to thank Northern Clay Center for welcoming me as an artist in residence. So bear in mind that I'm not English, so probably it will be a bit difficult for me to talk. So my name is Karima Duchamp, and I'm a French ceramic artist and painter. And I live in the east part of France, in Mulhouse. So I'm very happy to be here in Minneapolis and to develop some work during these 3 months. So tonight, I've chosen to entitle my talk, Color as a Pure Energy. It is actually a reference to a book entitled Painting as a Pure Energy that I have here with me. It's a small book written by a sculptor called Simone Fatal. And you might know her because she has a sculpture in the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden. And this book is about the artist Etel Adnan, who is a Lebanese-American painter, poet, and essayist who painted landscapes in vivid colors. And this quote from the book as an introduction: "Do colors have the power to break the barrier of time and take us beyond the most distant spaces? These spaces seem to be made not only of miserable kilometers, but also constituted by the accumulated experiences of life since its beginning and its non-beginning." So this little book often travels with me. It is inspiring, and whenever I open it, it gives me a wider perspective on art. So I would like to talk about my two practices, which is painting and clay sculpture, and how they are connected to each other. So a little bit about myself, my background. So my workshop is based, as I said, in Mulhouse, which is near Basel, East. I graduated with a master's degree in art and 1 year additional ceramic degree. I'm a member of the International Academy of Ceramics, and here is my website where you can have a lot of information about me also. Just to a few galleries and public collections where you can find my work. So recently I've had 2 acquisitions from museums, one in Siegburg in Germany and one in Rotalia in Italy, where I won the first prize of the ceramic contest. So Museum of Ariana in Geneva, Yingji Museum, and Modern Gallery is a gallery in Philadelphia I work with, and Triptych Gallery also in France. And the other collections are from residency where I was, the Clay Studio in Philadelphia and in Shigaraki. So about what my statement about my work. So my practice relies on a sensitive combination of sculptural ceramics and paintings, as well as the enigmatic and subtle presentation of the pentally motifs. My work is about color and form, the way color fades, becomes patina over time and ages in both medium that I use, which is ceramics and paintings, drawings. The common element in the medium I use is an affection for complex and layered surfaces, as you will see later. The sources that I refer include landscape, ornamentation, historical textile, and architecture. So I'm going to start talking about how I work. So I usually work in series, and within the series, sometimes I have some subcategories. This allows me to go deeper into a theme and the techniques. So this series, this first piece I'm showing is from my series Golden Rock. The starting point of this series is really inspired by a mountain called Golden Rock, which is in Myanmar, and it's a pagoda, which has been balancing off a cliff on top of a mount. And legend said that the balance of the rock depends on a strand of the Buddha's hair, without which it would have fallen from the cliff. And this is the kind of starting stories that can activate my imagination. So I hope yours, because I don't have the picture of the mountain, so to show you. But this evolves in mental ideas that become sculptures. Just to talk about my technique in this kind of sculptures. So I work mainly with slabs, slab construction, and I've always been very inspired by all the Berber objects and traditions that have surrounded me since my childhood. All the ceramics and the craft that I had in my home. And I think I have some unconscious and deep links with my Algerian background, as I discovered that my great-grandmother was a potter, and my mother used to weave some tapestries, and my sister, I used to really look at her when she was sewing at home when I was a child. And I really loved the way she was using chalks on the textile and the scissor strokes. And I think this kind of composition, as I start from flat slab and I build up my sculptures with triangle, is really linked to these images from my childhood. And also I feel like a transmitter of women's story in my family. About the color that you see on this first sculpture, I'll show you another one, which is the same series, Golden Rock. So usually I have number to name them. So about the colors I use in my ceramics, there are engobes, and so colored clays with stains, with different consistencies, very liquid, very thick or grainy. So I use a lot of layer to develop the colors and the atmosphere I want to develop. So color I use like a painter. I will show you afterwards of the process with finished touches that seem also a little bit unfinished. And I use two clays, stoneware and porcelain usually. So I fire to cone 8 in a gas kiln that I have in my studio. So this is another series. Another series of my work, which is called Skin House. So this work, I'm at the moment I'm working on 2 or 3 series. So Golden Rock and this Skin House series is a series in progress that finds its inspiration in the work of an artist, a British artist called Donald Rodney, from his work called In the House of My Father. This artist draws connection between dwelling and body, and as an image of the house constructed from his real skin. So I don't have the picture, but you can check the images probably. And it was a reference to his lineage and the memory of a home. So when I started this work in Skin House with porcelain, I was looking for new tactile sensations, the pinching of the porcelain when I started working on this project. It was during pandemic, and it was for me a way to convey a sensation of touching from skin to skin, as the porcelain is really close to the skin. And it reminded me also some childhood experiences when I was splashing around puddles of mud and smelling the clay. This sensation resurfaces, came again when I worked on these sculptures. I use also a lot of gold in my work, gold luster. For me, it's really as if the sculpture gains another dimension with the light of the gold. And the symbol also of the gold in art history. And it's like a thread that redo the story of the piece. It's like another layer for the story of the sculpture. This is another sculpture from the same series. So it's really a small bit of porcelain that are attached together by pinching. And all the coiling is done from the inside. This is another one, which is more like painting, but the same series with a lot of layers of colors. So sometimes when the sculpture I don't like it from the kiln when it's out of the kiln, which was the case for this sculpture. I repaint it with engobes, so it gives another perspective to this piece, more deeper. So this is the same. This is one from the Golden Rock, as I said. Another series, more organic. That's the kind of pieces that I'm building actually in the studio here with a very thin porcelain triangle. So I chose to work with triangle shapes because I like the idea that the process is slow and it evolves while I am creating. And the triangle is actually a very stable structure that remains very rigid under pressure. And it has a very strong base and it's very strong actually. And this shape is very often used in architecture also. And what really interests me also as a visual reference. I'm just going to talk about how my two practices are linked. For me, it's a kind of freedom to work on both practice because it gives me really an open mind when I work on the surfaces. I work a lot from intuition to create space in my mind. And I'm interested in all the little things that happen in the studio, or just what I call studio life. That's why I spend a lot of time in the studio because I'm very aware of everything that is happening in the studio, about the process and how the work evolves slowly.
Are you alone in the studio or working with other people?
I have my studio on my own. So my relation with ceramics, it's always between painting and ceramics, it's always a breakthrough from my practice to get out of my comfort zone. And working on vibrantly colored sculptures and large-scale painting that often develop from instinct, intuition, without preconceived idea, but being driven by the materials and the surfaces in a reduction of means. So this is the in-between ceramics and paintings. This is an installation actually of paper clay tiles, which are thin as paper. And each one is different. Each one is worked very deeply with layers of colored clay ingots. And this installation was first, I wanted to do some references to corners in a room, and then it evolves in something very abstract and very free. And I like to present them in big series like that.
Did you say it was colored clay?
Yeah.
Where does that live right now? Is it in your studio or is it what that piece?
This installation was for exhibition in this, and I will show you afterwards. I will develop the different places. Yeah. So this piece is about 10 years ago. And it was the first pieces where I started deconstruct my work. So it's also made with a lot of small pieces, and I really treated the surface as a painting. And it's actually one side and the other side of the same piece. So as you can see, I go into very detailed surfaces, really, really close to the painting, with all the unexpected things that happen in the kiln that you never know. But I know my colors pretty well now after 25 years using them. So I still discover a lot of things, but I really love to work with them. This is another piece from the same series, Deconstruction Like Horses. And, so it really refers to painting and to and this one is from the collection of Area Museum in Geneva. And also you can see all the layers in the bottom of the piece, and everything that is like vanishing. And I like also to work with transparencies, so very thin layers on top, and where you can see all the layers more or less. So what I like is to bring from my painting to my ceramic surfaces some gestures, some traces, some pattern, and to have this kind of freedom. So this is a mural of 5 pieces. I'm sorry that the dimensions are in centimeters, so but it's quite big. Yeah, so for me, it's very important to work on these 2 practices, because what I discover in my painting, I try to bring these ideas in my ceramics, and vice versa. So all the gestures and the color combination, or the motifs, and I'm really trying to reach this same flow of discoveries, which is quite hard because, as you know, we have all this long process of the ceramics, with even the drying, from the drying to the end. And the firing is very hard, and sometimes disappointing. So I try to keep this in mind, but still I want to have this same emotional state when you are on the paper or when you work freely. So for me, it's really important to get this sensation. Because for me, all these materials are close to the skin, as I said here. Yeah. So this is my painting, actually. So I use oil painting, mainly oil sticks, and this is a big format also. Sorry, it's 155 centimeters. So it's more than 1 meter. As you see, I try to have the same the same vibration of colors also. This is another one, quite recent. It's 2021, this one. And this one is Space Between, also 2021. And this is the work on paper with oil painting. And I really like also to work on the paper, which is different as on canvas, different on clay. But for me, I like it when I use a lot of different mediums in my practice. So my studio is really full of work in progress, different kind of work in progress.
It looks spontaneous.
Yes.
How long do you work on a piece like this?
It looks spontaneous, but it's not.
Yes.
So I don't know about the time really, but it's several days, or I don't know actually. I never count, because sometimes I leave it and come back after, and yeah. I do also some wall installation like this one. So this one is made of a lot of tiles that are like monotypes in ceramics. So everything is in ceramics. This is actually a composition that I made in Japan and that was afterwards exhibiting in Paris. And I called it Vanishing of Black because I wanted to create this sensation that the color was descending to the floor. On the floor, what you can see is a sticker of a big stain that I draw on a paper, but it's a sticker. And people would walk on it, and I like the idea that the installation was used by people somehow.
I have a question. You have black and white and gray,
Yeah.
and they're on top of each other, and people walk on it.
No, at the bottom, on the floor. On the floor, it's a sticker. So this is the installation of tiles you saw before, and it was exhibited actually in a ceramic center south of France called the Maison de la Céramique. So this is how I display this kind of installation, because I like the idea that people think it's paper, because it's actually not completely flat. You can see a little movement, just like when the paper is wet. So it gives an impression of paper, and it's very, very thin, actually. I have a detail. No, I don't have. And this is another installation of ceramic round, more or less round pieces that I call tondo, which were exhibiting in the same place. And I really liked also to work in more abstract composition of different kind of blue. I decided that the shapes will go together all together. So this is the kind of piece I also really like to do. This is the detail of the tile I told you about, very thin, like paper. And this is another installation that I did called Patience is Beauty. So it's really made with little tiles, one by one. And I like the idea that you have this kind of intertwined strokes, and there are also different readings of this mural. When you are from a distance, you see something, and when you go closer, you will see all the details. And this is the kind of details of this work. So the background is very dense, like a second skin, and all these lines, it's like a path that you follow endlessly. I like the idea that it's something that looks like a grid or a mesh, something also raw, but at the same time very precious, because all the grid is in gold, actually. So I also like this idea that it looks fragile, but it's not, because it's fired and it's porcelain, so it's very strong. And all the white is like you can go through and just see the nest. So the pattern really emerged, and I like this idea of contemplative work. So this is why I called it Patience is Beauty, because it was a long, long, long job. And this work was exhibited in New York for the Salon Art and Design, which is always in November at Armory show. And this is also some sculpture that were exhibited in the same show, Art and Design, in New York. So the four pieces on the is from me, are from me. Sorry. This is my process of working. Actually, this is in Japan when I made this installation black and white. So I used to work on a big slab of plaster. And this is the previous clay studio, because I'm going to talk a little bit about my residencies. So the clay studio, the previous place when it was in the center of Philadelphia, city center. And how I work a little bit, I had some pictures from this time. This was 2015, when I was in Philadelphia for a residency that I was invited. This is a residency I made recently in 2018 in Japan, and it was paper and painting residency. There was no ceramics possible in this place, and I decided to work on paper. And actually, I made this installation you see on the right. With burnt paper that I installed as some little bits of paper on the wall, and all the thing that was falling on the floor. I like this idea of burning paper, which was really not good in Japan because it was quite dangerous actually, because it was summertime. And but I discovered a lot of different shades of the burning paper, going from black to sometimes golden pieces, and some unburnt and burnt pieces also. And I called this work I did there impermanent papers, because actually, I noticed that when I was there was a typhoon and an earthquake. So it was very impermanent all the time. And I felt it. So yeah, it was a big story. And this is the big drawing you could see on the left. But I will send it there. 3 parts on washi paper. Big size. It represents a landscape I saw there. This is a residency I did in Germany, in Neumünster, which is North Germany near Denmark. I called it Faces, and I made a lot of ceramics together with some drawings that I installed at the end. We had an exhibition, and I did a big wall of round pieces on the wall, and also mixing with some papers, drawings.
Can you describe why you chose this theme of faces?
Faces, because at that time I was for many months drawing. The first thing I was doing when I was in my studio, the first thing was drawing in the morning when I arrived, and I was drawing faces all the time. And then this residency came, and I didn't want to interrupt this ritual of drawing in the morning. And I kept drawing, and I was really drawing a lot of faces. So I made all these faces, and also some detail of just some eyes and different shapes on the wall. And all the drawings on the right, top right, were also faces. So this is why I called it Faces, because at that time I was really into this this thing of drawing with some ink and very diluted drawings. This is me in my studio, how I work. Sometimes on big pieces, I work on the floor directly. And sometimes on some pieces more precisely as usual on the table. This is a little bit how I work with all my colors, the stains. Sometimes I add directly some powder, stains powder in my angles color. So this is why I told you I'm really searching this freedom in my work when I decorate on my ceramics. And this is my palette of engobe. So sometimes I start with a color and I dilute it and change the color, really like a painter would do with his palette. And here is some drawing research on the left and my drawing and my painting palettes. So you see there's really a link between how I work with ceramics and how I work with my painting. I really try to do the same, actually. This is a little bit of my inspiration, what I like, a few things. So this is a lacquer, Japanese lacquer, black, which is for me very interesting because when you see the piece in Rio, you can see all the layers of because lacquer is full of layers, and my work is really the same. Actually, it's full of layers, and sometimes I scratch to get the layers from below, and sometimes the layers come up, and I find it very inspiring, actually. The painter I was talking to you on my introduction, one of her painting, she passed away a few years ago. But this is really vivid colors that I like. And one painter I really love, Edouard Vuillard, from the Nabi Impressionist, because it has a lot of patterns and sometimes and characters, and the patterns sometimes become something else, something very abstract. And I really love his colors also. Also, I get inspiration, as I told you, from architecture, but also old walls that I really love. And this is one wall in north of France, on all the factory. And I really love all the thing that comes from the passing of time, actually. And it's just nature that does it. And thank you.
So naturally now, sorry, I was over this whole time. So naturally now we're in kind of a question and answer session. So I would invite anyone with any questions to go ahead and throw those out. And for anyone online, please feel free to enter those into the chat. I'd be happy to answer or ask those on your behalf. So please, folks, feel free to kind of.
Is the clay as thick as paper or paper as thick as clay?
Ah, good question. I work, my ceramics are quite thin, actually. It's, they're not very thick. I think I have something with the way I pinch or the way I put my triangles that really, I have a sensation of thickness. And it has to be close to the skin, so it's quite thin.
When you apply the triangles, have you already created the structure of the vessel?
No. This is something I forgot to tell you about how I build up my triangle. It's not the triangle that I shaped from the outside. I really built with real triangles, And I don't have the shape. I have an idea of the shape, and the shapes really evolves during the process of building up. So it gives me a lot of freedom of the form and how I want to get some movements or not. Yeah, so I don't have fixed idea from the beginning. I like to let it go.
That explains the variety of
Exactly.
triangles, that it's true. It
Yeah.
creates a movement.
Exactly. It's just true. Yeah.
Have you experimented with oil paints directly on the clay as a fold process? And why do you choose to put it through the kiln as opposed to your paper projects?
Because for me, the ceramic process has to be true again, from the beginning to the end. So I like the idea of the ceramic and the colors are fixed forever on the ceramics. It's not added with oil or acrylic or whatever. So I'm really true with the process and the difficulties of the process and everything. If I don't reach what I want to reach, I just do something else or put some hang-ups on it or whatever, or just throw it away, put it aside if it doesn't work. But I really like the process, and I love the firing. Actually, I really like it. I like to spend 10 hours waiting for my kiln, my gas kiln.
That takes a long time to get done.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Because
Karima?
I fire very high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the vagueness and just this ambiguity of, shapes are just almost like non-objects. Like they could be a pillow, they could be architecture, they could be maybe like you were saying, it could be paper, canvas. Even the images seem like it's this atmospheric and something's emerging, something's disappearing.
Yeah.
And it's always so vague.
Yeah.
Anyway, my question finally is your forms, the shapes and the forms of the first few pieces that you showed us. Like, is that important to you that the shapes are ambiguous?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I like the idea that it's open and you can see whatever you want actually. There's no I like the idea of it's not fixed, and it can you can imagine whatever you want, and you are free to go more into architecture or more something more sensual from something else. So yeah,
it just looks like you're almost more interested in like stretching canvas, i.e. clay, so that you have a surface to draw on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm obviously in love with like any kind of drawing.
Yeah, I'm interested in surfaces, any kind of surfaces. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What I'm doing here in the studio is I'm starting new things, which I'm very happy of, and it's new directions again. So yeah, I'm always searching actually. Yeah.
One last question, real quick. You showed a bunch of great examples of inspiration, but is there one ceramic base? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah. One
ceramic person that's deceased or still living that you look up to?
I like Chinese ceramics from Tang period. I really like it. I like also Korean and Japanese ceramics, traditional ones. One ceramic artist I really like in France is Claude Champy. I don't know if you know him. You have to check. He's famous, very famous. I don't have any names like that, but I look to a lot of contemporary ceramics. Yeah.
There was a question that came through from Zoom that Olivia wanted to know, do you still start your days with drawing faces, or how do you start your days in the studio now?
Not really. I've stopped a little bit about this painting ritual in the morning. I start with what I have in process actually, but I stopped this ritual.
Where were you during the beginning of the lockdown of the pandemic? What did it influence your work? And I'm wondering, is that when you were drawing faces, when you weren't around other people?
During the pandemic, it was a hard time for everyone, but the pandemic started in France, where I live, in Mulhouse. It was the first spot in Mulhouse, was the first spot in France. So we had a very tough lockdown, and I couldn't go physically. I just couldn't go to my studio. So I settled down a studio at home, and I decided to paint only during the first months of pandemic. This is how I developed my paintings, my large scale paintings, and also some small paintings. So this is about pandemic, but your question was about the.
You did answer. I wanted to know where you were.
Oh yeah.
And also when you did the faces. What
the faces was before actually.
Yes. Yeah. And so you felt creative enough to keep producing in your studio?
Yeah, I was producing a lot of drawing and paintings. I didn't do much ceramics on the more at the end of the pandemic. I started again my ceramics, but during the pandemic I just couldn't.
Did you feel like it might have changed your work being isolated and through that?
Sure. The Skin House series is really from the pandemic. Yeah. After the pandemic, I had a show in Basel, and I showed this for the first time, this series, Skin House, and actually I was able to go to the show every day for the whole exhibition, and I put some notes. Please touch. So I allowed people to touch the sculpture because I was there. So it was, for me, pandemic was such a change with people, and people were so happy to touch in a gallery.
Was there any damage?
No, there wasn't.
There was another question online. Linda wanted to know, do you have an idea of what you want to paint on the ceramic surface as you start working on these pieces, or does the imagery just sort of emerge as you work?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I usually start with a lot of layers of colors, and out of this mess, sometimes I have one thing that emerge, and I start from this thing. So I usually start with layers, and after it evolves slowly.
When you have a composition like on the right, are you preparing each of those pieces with its neighbor in mind, or assembling them afterward?
I have no. They don't match. I have no plan of matching all together, but they match all together.
And then the black and white one, it looked like there was continuity.
This one was really something I really composed from the top to the bottom to have this kind of feeling of.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So you had to have a huge space.
Yes.
To lay that all out. You're looking down at a floor area?
Yes. Yes, I had to install it. Actually, in Japan, I installed everything outside on the grass.
Oh.
But the studios were quite big, actually.